I came here to IHE, like I said, December 1st, 2017. Left the States, basically retired school teacher. What I found after the first year of retirement, I was working, doing odd jobs, having a bunch of fun. I was doing all kind of things. I was secret shopping. I was doing Uber and doing some remote work for a software company. I was shuttling engineers and conductors to and from their train. Man, I was having a ball. That's the first year after retirement. And I was doing that to supplement my pension. After that first year, I had this epiphany where I said, hey, wait a minute. I'm going to always have to do this to supplement my pension. I will always be semi-retired.
Welcome to the Repurpose Your Career podcast, brought to you by Career Pivot. This podcast is where those of us in the second half of life come together to discuss how to repurpose our careers for the 21st century. Come listen to career experts give you proven strategies. Listen to people like you tell their stories on how they repurpose their careers. And finally, get your questions answered. Your host, Mark Miller, has made 6 career pivots over the last 30 years. He understands this is not about jumping out of the frying pan into a fire, but rather to create a plan where you make clear, actionable steps or pivots to a better future career. Are you ready to repurpose your career?
Welcome to episode 243 of the Repurpose Your Career podcast. My name is Mark Miller, and I'll be your host every Monday for discussion on what it's like to repurpose your career. This week, I have a real joy for you as I'm interviewing Queen Michele. Queen is in her late 50s, is an African-American retired school teacher who moved to the North Shore of Lake Chapala in 2018. She lives on a $1,100 monthly teacher pension. I interviewed Queen back in episode 119 in March of 2019. After she published her book, Considerations, A Guide for Moving Abroad. I'm bringing her back as she has several more entrepreneurial endeavors to tell you about. Now, by the way, during our interview, her dog Quincy interrupted us, and I left that in the episode as he is a big part of Queen's life. Queen is an incredibly resilient and energetic woman that I hope will inspire you. However, before we get to the episode, let's have a word from our sponsor, Career Pivot. The Career Pivot membership community continues to help the members who are participating in this project grow and thrive. This is a community where everyone is there to help everyone else figure out what they want to do in the second half of life and then make it happen. Let's hear what Dean had to say about being part of the community.
First of all, you never know. There's always just a little push over the line to get you started, right? So when I first joined the community, the idea then was, I'm in this particular job, and I don't want to stay at this particular job for the rest of my life. And so whatever that push needs to be, it still needs to be there, and I need to try to figure out what that is. I can remember we were, over the weeks that we've been doing community meetings, people saying, hey, look, I could listen to your book, or I think you would do good at doing voice work. So that encouragement, I think that's been good from the community, is just to be able to talk to people, hear their opinions. I know that, for example, we were talking about the first book I did, and I remember, Mark, you were like, well, some of the reading was a little monotone, and it was, but it didn't hurt my feelings. I mean, I agree with you, right? I mean, it was my first book. It is what it is, and things like that are good to have, I think, and I think if somebody's looking to be a part of the community, that's one of the things they can look forward to with this.
I'm recruiting new members to the next group. If you're interested in learning more about the endeavor, please go to careerpivot.com/community. Now, on to my discussion with Queen Michele. Welcome to the Repurpose Your Career podcast. I have the real joy of having Queen Michele back on the podcast. And we had Queen back in March of 2019 in episode 119. I'll put a link in the show notes for that episode. And Queen is an interesting person. So welcome to the podcast, Queen.
Thank you. I like that word, interesting. Okay. I hope your listeners find it interesting what we're going to talk about today.
Well,
what are we talking about today?
We're talking about you.
Oh, okay. Let's see if I'm interesting.
That's right. Well, Queen lives in San Antonio, Taclocapan, which is right next to Ajijic. She moved here in 2018?
2017. It was the end of 2017, December 1st.
The first episode was about how she went about becoming an expat, and she wrote her first book. And now she's got she's made multiple career pivots since then, and we're going to talk about. So, Queen, why don't you give us the 30,000 foot view of who are you and how did you get here?
I like that word, career pivot. I'm out here pivoting career-wise. Had no idea. I came here to Ajijic, like I said, December 1st, 2017. Left the States, basically retired school teacher. And what I found after the first year of retirement, I was working, doing odd jobs, having a bunch of fun. I was doing all kinds of things. I was secret shopping. I was doing Uber and doing some remote work for a software company. I was shuttling engineers and conductors to and from their train. Man, I was having a ball. That's the first year after retirement. And I was doing that to supplement my pension. And after that first year, I had this epiphany where I said, hey, wait a minute. I'm going to always have to do this to supplement my pension. I will always be semi-retired because I need to supplement this pension. It would never be enough. And started researching the top 10 places to retire. And here you have, and I researched them. Back then in 2016, it was probably the same ones today. Costa Rica, Panama, Belize, Honduras, Ecuador, Thailand. But I landed here because of the three reasons. Number one, the close proximity. I'm coming from Atlanta. That's my home base. I'm 3.5 hours, one flight, nonstop, back to Atlanta. Secondly, of course, is the heavenly climate. The climate here is what they call it eternally spring. Now, mind you, you have a wet spring and a dry spring, but it's still spring. And so climate was second. And then the third thing was the expat community. Nowhere where I looked was there a place like that I researched that was a place like Lake Chapala Society. See, that place here makes a soft landing especially for people who are alone, like I was. I'm a single woman. I was alone. I was, middle-aged woman moving abroad. They provide a nice safety net to kind of get you acclimated to this North Shore of Lake Chapala until you're ready to kind of fly out on your own. So that was the third thing. Mark, that this North Shore of Lake Chapala is the largest expat community in the country of Mexico, in the entire country, this North Shore. So I was in good company when I came here, when I really retired. I was semi-retired in the States after working 27 years, as a teacher. But here I'm completely retired. So I thought I was going to, I had envisioned taking up things like hiking and yoga and meeting new friends and possibly traveling around Mexico. I had all types of visions. But I got here and spent After 4 months of being here, I ran into Jerry Brown. You know, Jerry Brown, he has the YouTube channel, Jerry Brown Travels. And I was so excited to meet him because it was his videos that I was watching nonstop as I was planning and preparing to move here. And when I saw him, I was so excited, and he wanted me to be on his show, and I was. His YouTube channel, he has a great following too. And next thing I know, people were messaging me and wanting to know more, and they had so many questions, and wow, you're so brave. And instead of trying to answer all those questions, I said, hey, you know what? I could just tell them what I did. And that's how Considerations, a guide for moving abroad, was birthed. I wrote that book, I think, in a couple of months, because it's basically just based on my experience of moving here from Atlanta. It's 10 chapters. Each chapter is a consideration. Consider visas, consider finances, consider healthcare. It took off. It was a great success. You know, people who were considering moving here were interested in reading those tips, those considerations. Soon I started getting questions behind that. You know, even though the book was out there and it was doing well, they had more questions, and they wanted more information. And next thing I know, Mark, I started consulting. Okay, but before I started consulting, while I was here, during the time that Considerations, a guide for moving abroad, was released, I was in the midst of a full-blown spiritual awakening. That was in the midst. So even though I was doing that, I was writing another book at the same time as a result of my spiritual awakening. As it was happening, I was writing this book. And during that time came a brand. And the brand is Considerations of the Soul. That brand was birthed. And I said, from now on, any and everything that I do will come up under that brand. I mean, moving abroad is a consideration of the soul, right?
You betcha.
So that title kind of fit the Considerations, a guide for moving abroad, and then where I was going spiritually. And get this, where I was going spiritually, there's the brand Considerations of the Soul presents. And this is the result of what was happening through my meditation. As I was meditating, I was receiving these downloads. As I was going through the process of this full-blown spiritual awakening, I was writing that book. Now, from that book, the New Earth Hand, this is why I call it a New Earth Handbook. And I'll give some premises and concepts of that in a minute. But from it was birthed a blog called Flowing and Growing. Now, I've been doing that blog almost 2 years now, and it comes out twice a month. Flowing and Growing comes out twice a month. So from that was a blog. And then I created a YouTube channel. And in the beginning, that YouTube channel was called Sip and Share Wednesdays. And I was just giving little tidbits of inspiration and insights that I was receiving. I'm getting ready to move into my 4th season of my YouTube channel, but it's no longer called Sip and Share Wednesdays. It's called Moving Inward and Onward, because I have been finally able to marry these two under one brand, up under the brand. So because one is about moving abroad, the other is about moving deeper within. So they're both moving. So each week, I'm either doing a segment on moving abroad, maybe something from the book. Just recently, I did one on funerals, having a medical health directive, a Mexican health directive. And that was really good. But 1 week I'll do moving inward, and I'm speaking of the premises and concepts that's coming from the New Earth Handbook, Traveling Home Together, or I'm doing something from Considerations, Moving Abroad. So back to not only from traveling home together was birthed the blog and the YouTube channel and the Thursday quote. I also created an 8-week, what do you call it? An 8-week online independent study course to go along with the concept, to help integrate the concepts and premises of this New Earth Handbook, because it's deep, it's spiritual. Now, when it comes to moving abroad, I started consulting 45 minutes. I would do a 45-minute segment where we would talk via Zoom. And I had outlined a way for those individuals like me who are single. And get this. I got to tell you this. This is so cool. Before the title, Considerations, A Guide for Moving Abroad, this was the title of the book. I was going to name it Considerations for Middle-Aged Women Planning and Preparing to Move Abroad. That's what the title of the book was going to be. And coincidentally, that's my audience. Those are the women those are the people who are actually signing up for the consultations, because they are like me, getting ready to retire or have retired, and they got that understanding too. So now they see someone out there who's done it. So now I'm consulting with that. But the consulting, even with that, there were more questions. So when I get there, and from that came, the Concierge Service. So now Considerations of the Soul is doing it's called Considerations of the Soul, Consultation and Concierge Services, specializing in the Lake Chapala, Mexico area. So inside there is a step further for people who are coming, I guess you could say, they're doing recognizant visits, it's boots on the ground. They're coming to see how they see themselves here. So instead of spending a whole lot of time trying to figure it all out, this helps them to already have things lined up so they can make the best use out of their visit here to see if this is where they want to be.
Quick interruption. If you are enjoying this podcast, please rate it and review it on whatever podcast player you are using. And more importantly, would you mind telling a friend? Thanks, and back to the podcast episode. You have developed a portfolio of services, your books. So where are you making your money?
Question. I'm making my money on moving abroad. The spirituality, even though with the course and the blog and that they don't for the very first time, Mark, it's been 20 months since I wrote that book. And then I've added these other things as it relates to it. I'm getting ready to speak on it for the first time. I've been speaking about moving abroad since the book came out. But for the first time, and that's coming up this Sunday, I'll be at Unitarian Universal, right there on the Carretera, across from, I was invited by Chris Gain. He invited me to speak. So for the first time, and I'm so excited about that because I'm always talking about moving abroad, and that's where I'm making the money. My consultations are for 45 minutes, but there's a cost to that. Yep. My concierge package is for individuals, for couples, and for groups, and each one of those prices, as soon as that concierge package was up, I've sold 2 individuals, 1 couple, and 1 group. That's where I'm making the money. And it's kind of funny because I'm making money there, but my passion is the spirituality part.
When you came here, you had no plans to do any of it.
None whatsoever. And It's like if one thing led to it kind of rolled, it kind of unfolded. It unfolded that way. I wasn't going to write a book. I didn't come here planning on writing a book. Jerry Brown kind of, being on there kind of initiated that. And I wasn't planning on consulting, but the book kind of initiated that. I wasn't planning on a concierge package, developing one, but the consultation led to that. So from book to consulting to the concierge package.
So what has this onslaught of massive amounts of money? Quick interruption. If you are enjoying this podcast, please rate it and review it on whatever podcast player you are using. And more importantly, would you mind telling a friend? Thanks, and back to the podcast episode. What has that done to your lifestyle?
Well, let me tell you what. For the first time, Mark, I have private health insurance. I can make the quarterly premium, That's huge for me because this was the plan. And this is how I was doing it as it relates to healthcare. When I first moved here, I had a credit card, had $500 on it. And I said that this is going to be my healthcare card. If anything happens, and $500 is 10,000 pesos. So I'm hoping anything happens. Say I step outside, I step off the curb and I break my ankle or, whatever. That's what I was going to use as health insurance. But thankfully, nothing took place within the time from when I moved here in 2017 to this year in March. For the first time, I now have private health insurance that I pay quarterly, and I'm able to pay that through my book sales and through considerations, a guide for moving abroad and what happens with that. Nothing has been made from the spirituality side of my brand.
What I want people to understand is Queen is relatively young for being an expat.
Yeah.
I'm 65.
Fair enough. I am not collecting Social Security for the next 4 years. So yes. Okay. Fair enough. Yep.
I mean, you came in your middle 50s, which
I did.
Which is relatively young.
55. Yeah.
Right. I'm seeing more of that now. But the other piece of it is also, Queen, you were very thorough in your research. And go back and listen to the first podcast episode, and you will understand how thorough Queen was, which is why I'm a recovering engineer. There's a 12-step program for that. I test everything. Most people who come here do not. This is where your teaching background, what I wanted Queen on because is she has developed a number of different businesses that's earning her money. As you can tell, she's having a good time at it.
I'm having a ball. Mark, I'm having a ball.
And this is having an impact on her life because as we all get older, health insurance, healthcare. Now, admittedly, healthcare here is incredibly affordable.
It is.
And the healthcare is quite good. So this is where I wanted you to hear Queen's, and I love Queen and her little dog, Quincy.
That's right. Yeah, private health insurance. If only it does that, I'm good with it. I'm absolutely because I'm covered. And now, and I'll just say for me, my plan, and everyone is different, as it relates to any pre-existing conditions or things like that, age, all of that has something to do with it. But my private health insurance, and I think it's wonderful compared to probably what it would be in the States, is $2,000 a year. Okay, which roughly for me, even though I pay quarterly, that one lump sum quarterly, it works out to be something like $150 a month.
Yeah. So what's your deductible?
$1,800.
Okay.
Yeah, $1,800.
1,800 in here goes I mean, you have to, that's spending a lot of money. I mean, when I recently went to the dermatologist to get a wart taken off my eyelid.
Okay.
And the cost was 900 pesos, $45. And the doctor spent an hour with me.
Wow.
Queen, what's next?
What I'm hoping with the merger of these two is that I begin to receive as much engagement from my traveling home together than I do, which I'm so thankful for, with the concierge package, the consulting, and the book. See, I made a workbook that goes along with traveling home together, and it has exercises and practices, and I developed I had a book club, and we read Traveling Home Together. It was a Considerations of the Soul book club, and we read Traveling Home Together from cover to cover, and they helped me with insights on what to put into that workbook, how to help integrate the concepts in it. And a wonderful group of ladies, and all of them were from here, except one. One was located in Las Vegas. We met for 8 weeks, because it's 8 chapters. We met for 8 weeks every Sunday, to go over our take on each chapter. And they helped me create that workbook. So to have a workbook and to have a course, and to have written this book, and to have the blog and the Thursday quotes, the Facebook group. I have a Facebook group. I have a Facebook page. All of that is dedicated to New Earth and Traveling Home Together, the concepts and premises behind it. What would I like to see happen? I would like to see that side, engagement in that side. And like I said, I'm excited because for the first time ever, it's been 20 months, I get to speak on it. I've been speaking on moving abroad forever and a day, but now I get to speak on that.
Well, the key piece here is for the last 18 months, we've been going through a pandemic.
Yeah.
Right. And no one's been moving here. In fact, a lot of people went home. We had a certain number of folks who passed away.
That's true.
So, Queen, this has been great. If someone wanted to buy your books, buy your workbooks, find your concierge service, find your Facebook, how do they do that?
Okay. So Quincy, he's barking at I'm so sorry. You're going to have to, right. You're going to have to,
well, I'll edit all this.
Yeah, okay. Come here, Quincy. Come here, sweetie. You got to stop barking. Everything was fine. He's beating on the window as he makes the thing. Do you want to say Quincy? Say hi and be quiet. Okay.
Hi, Quincy.
Say hi.
I miss you.
Say, I miss you too. Okay, so thank you. You're gonna have to edit that out for sure. Okay, no bark. So they can reach me at www.considerationsofthesoul.com. That's my website, and from there, Mark, something that I do is that I do a free 15-minute chat. They can go on my website and just book. You can chat with anybody for 15 minutes, right? And just kind of get a feel for where they're heading, what they want. Most of the time, after a 15-minute chat, there's 3 things that generally either happens. They're either buying the book, they're booking a consultation, or they're booking the concierge service. So those 3 15-minute chats are very, very profitable and important. It always leads to something. or just meeting a cool person, 15 minutes. So on my website, they can book that 15-minute chat, or they can book the consultation, or they can book the concierge. And my traveling home together, the New Earth independent online study course is also booked on there, along with my blogs. My blogs are on the website. I did 2. 1 year I was doing 2 blogs. I was doing Keeping Tabs in Mexico. It's archived there now. And I'm still doing Flowing and Growing. So all of that is located on my website. Now, my Facebook group is called, get this, the Soul Stirring Community. They can find that. That's the Facebook group. And my Facebook page is, of course, Considerations of the Soul. I am out there on social media like crazy. Okay. So Instagram. Oh, and my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is called Moving Inward and Onward. And starting next Wednesday, it's season 4. The kickoff of season 4 starts next Wednesday. I'm going to be doing, that's what's next. I'm going to continue writing blogs. I'm going to continue doing YouTube, and I'm going to continue hopefully getting on, doing podcast shows and hopefully now speaking. This is what I think. I'm hoping you today, and maybe Open Circle sometime in the future. Wouldn't that be a great place to maybe talk about?
And Open Circle is a weekly get together here that it's every Sunday morning. Yep.
It's every Sunday morning, right? At what? LCS, I should probably do an advertisement for them because I sure talk about them.
And for everyone's, LCS stands for Lake Chapala Society. Queen, thank you very much for being on this podcast.
Thank you. I mean, wow. I appreciate, you know what? You just literally just lit me up when you said, hey, you ain't been on in a while. You got all this stuff going on. Come on and tell us what's going on with you. And I appreciate that so much. I thought, how cool is that? I told my son, I was on his, it was years, a couple years back. And here he is saying, you know what, you're interested enough to come back on, because I'm pivoting. Now, this is a good fit. I'm pivoting careers in a way. I've turned into I went from teacher, moved here, and became writer, blogger, and now speaker. And under my belt now, five pieces of writing, a couple of books, a workbook, an ebook.
So, Queen, thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak today.
Queen is making it happen, doing things she's never done before. I hope you found that inspiring. Now take a moment, go to careerpivot.com, sign up for the weekly Career Pivot Insights newsletter, which is sent out every Sunday. You will get a weekly update on this podcast, white papers, and new blog posts. While there, don't forget to check out the Career Pivot community, which can be found at careerpivot.com/community. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You look for Career Pivot on Facebook and LinkedIn. You'll also find me on Twitter at Career Pivot. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of the Repurpose Your Career podcast. You will find all the show notes at careerpivot.com/episode-243. You can also subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Podbeam, Overcast, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, and lots of other places where podcasts can be found. In fact, this podcast can now be found on the Repurpose Your Career podcast channel on YouTube. I hope to see you next Monday for another episode of Repurpose Your Career podcast.